Bing, bing, whoop, whoop. Bing, bing, whoop, whoop.
All right, welcome back, guys. Marklyn and I have been talking about beers, talking about some pilsners, ales, and lagers, and what kind of the difference is. It's a question we get a lot. So we were kind of debating back and forth, so we figured we'd give somebody a call and see if they could help us out. So we figured who better to call than our brewmaster, Jeremy Kosnicki. So let's see if we can get him on the line.
I hope he's available.
Hey, buddy.
Hello?
Hi, Pierre.
Oh, hey, dudes.
Were your ears ringing too much?
Yeah, I just been on my computer doing these Microsoft Teams meetings and Zoom meetings, and
It's the way to go these days. So John and I were just chatting. We get the question quite a bit about pilsners and lagers and ales and really what's up with all of them and what makes them different. So we thought if you had a few minutes, we'd love to get your insight on all those things, really.
oh, I love talking about beer and drinking beer. I actually have a beer right now, and it's a Pilsner.
Ooh, hey, speaking of which, I don't want to be thirsty on this call. I'm enjoying Cinco Estrellas from our family at Mao.
That's
Nice.
a lager.
And I'm drinking Red Rye IPA, so we got a little bit of a spectrum here.
Excellent. So let's kind of start off by what's the main difference between lagers and ales? Because we do get that question and there's quite a bit behind it, really.
Sure, yeah. The main difference is, of course, the yeast strain. The yeast is what will eat the sugars and make your alcohol and impart some distinct characteristics. Lagers they use what's called a bottom fermenting yeast, which means the action happens near the bottom of the tank at a colder temperature. Ales, on the other hand, are top fermented at a warmer temperature, and they create different characteristics.
Yeah, lager actually means to store, so it kind of gives you a hint on what's happening with the beer. They're storing it cold. Huh?
It's cold, it takes longer, generally it's cleaner, less phenolics and esters. Ales are much older. Lager production didn't really come around until 19th century, at least here in America. Came over from Germany and some of the German immigrants, but ales were king before that, and pretty different styles.
So out of the beers that we make at Founders, which do we rely more heavily on? Ale yeast or lager yeast, and maybe what kind of styles, do we make with each?
Yeah, we do mostly ales. We started off as a ale producing brewery and really just moved into lagers in the last got serious probably in the last 5 years or so. But ales are kind of what the craft brewing movement was founded on. Most of what you drink in domestic mass-produced beer is lager strain. So ales made a resurgence with the craft community over the last 20 years, and that's definitely what we mainly make. All your IPAs, amber ales,
Porter stout.
wheat beers are ale examples.
Mm-hmm.
So really a lot more of the beers that we make would be considered ales versus lagers. So what made us decide to go with a lager strain and kind of try those styles of beers? Because we haven't been, or I should say historically speaking as a company, we were definitely more ale forward, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it was just the evolution. Lagers can be more difficult to make. They require some more equipment with longer aging time, and they're a little less forgiving than ales. So but it just was a natural progression. We wanted to have beer, at least a few styles that maybe are more familiar to mainstream beer drinkers. That's kind of where Solid Gold came from. Our Pilsner is our own take on it. It's definitely a craft Pilsner, not traditional at all. But it's just kind of a way to just step outside of what we normally do and try something new and still be experimentative. Experimentational.
That works.
So John and I were talking, we're always talking, but so we have ale strains, lager strains, and that produces all these different styles. Is there anything, any other strains that we've used as a company?
Sometimes.
What do you got there? Oh,
Blushing Mountain?
Sure. So that is another kind of ale. I will say that our house ale yeast that we make all of our IPAs and things out of is pretty neutral. It doesn't have a lot of its own character. It gets in, it gets the job done. It's fairly clean. It's not going to produce a lot of esters or phenols. But you get to a yeast like that Belgian yeast there used in that Blushing Monk, and that's going to kick off a lot of flavor characters of its own, flavor and aroma.
Yeah.
You'll start to get a lot of banana, clove, those kind of things are generally with a Belgian ale yeast.
And so do we use that strain very often?
No, we don't. We bust it out maybe once a year. We'll make maybe a wit or a triple or some other Belgian inspired theme and run some of that monk. It's the Belgian yeast strain it's pretty aggressive, and if it were to become intermingled with our house ale yeast, it would quickly take over, and those characteristics that I talked about would become more present and probably would not be appropriate for most of our normal production beers.
Yeah, well, a lot of our friends are probably familiar with a lot of the, our ales that we make, this broad spectrum that you mentioned. Do you actually prefer brewing with the ale yeast versus the lager yeast, or is it kind of like picking favorites among children?
Well, they're just different. In fact, when we chose our house lager yeast, which we make Solid Gold and Pilsner out of, it is also a rather neutral yeast. Lager yeast generally doesn't offer a whole lot of distinct characteristics the way those Belgian ale yeasts can. But a little bit of sulfur is appropriate, but generally they finish pretty crisp and clean. I really liked playing with the lager yeast and doing hoppy beers because it really accentuates the hops in a different way than an ale yeast would. So I've had a lot of fun playing around with it.
Yeah, I know that Pilsner that you're drinking really kind of showcases the hops that we used in that one for being a Pilsner style beer. So makes it kind of fun.
It's just different from what you normally would get out of an IPA, although still just as satisfying to me be able to use those American style hops. Now there are different styles of Pilsner. Pilsner is of course a lager. It's a type of lager, but Pilsners came about over in Czechoslovakia, where they originated, the Bohemian style. Germans kind of took their own style. And hey, Eves, can you kind of be quiet a little bit? I'm making a video. Just digging through the music.
The workday, brief cameos all around.
Besides what we've already chatted about, maybe new craft beer drinkers or people trying to find new things right now. Like we're making less trips to the grocery store, so we want to be sure in what we're getting when we're there, right? Kind of in and out. So do either of you have kind of tips to trying one or the other, or maybe?
Depends what you're after. I mean, Solid Gold is available in large pack format, and I think that a lot of people just want to get in and grab their large format and get out. So if you're looking for something that's just a nice, easy drinking lager, probably reminiscent of some of the domestic beers that maybe you're used to, that's a great choice. It's got a little hop character of its own, but if you want to step up your hop game and still have that lager, I think Pilsner is a great option. If you're more of an ale drinker, if you like those kind of more rounder, fruitier, hop forward ales, then you can't go wrong with an all day IPA 15 pack.
Yeah, and I think, especially if you're playing around with some, beer and food and just trying new things and trying new flavors, ales have that huge variety from, our all day to, barrel aged stouts, for example. Which I think, for me makes it kind of fun if you're trying to be a little creative, and maybe, some of those 4 or 6 packs means you don't have to commit too much. But, there's such variety out there that, definitely have those standbys, but, I always try to try something I haven't had before anytime I go out. So there's a lot of safe and fun options both ways and both sides of the spectrum. So it just depends on your palate.
Good point. Well, Jared, it's been awesome to chat with you. We missed your face.
Good to see you.
John and our office is pretty close to yours at the brewery, so it kind of feels like we're all back in production together right now. So
yeah, really. Well, thanks for chatting with us, Jay. I mean, it's been awesome to see you again. But
it was a pleasure.
I mean, it's almost like our after work happy hour and shifties right now. Our shift beers. So it's just.
I mean, it's all the same. We got beers. We see each other. We talk about beer.
My wife's screaming hi from the other room.
Yeah. Well, it's been awesome, guys. Hopefully we answered some questions about ales and lagers, and we'll be back next week with more exciting beer topics from Founders Brewing Company Education Department.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers, guys.